Welcome. It's Annette Green here, week 16 of 2025. And every week I do a craft or craft related video. And if you joined me last week, I started on this beautiful bee gratitude journal. We took a Graphic 45 travel album and we went through and with these beautiful papers, a combination of my papers for Elizabeth Craft Designs, both Beautiful Bounty and Colorful Collective, and also these beautiful prints from Simply Stated Design that were sent to me from Valerie. Thank you again, Valerie. They're beautiful, as you can see. And all I had left after I decorated this was a few things. Okay, so I still had this sheet. I cut just a little piece out of there behind the keyhole of the cover. So I have all these little cut aparts. I have these big bees here to work with. And then I had these two sheets here, which were a little bit odd because of the shape here, but definitely things I can fussy cut and use from those two pieces. And then I did have some stamps that I pulled out last week and I showed you, and I started stamping and coloring. And I just had to take a second and tell you guys about these great markers I just got. Okay, probably not new to a lot of you, but they're new to me. Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. They're water-based markers. Different than anything I've ever had before. And they were highly recommended from Belinda. Thank you, Belinda. And the reason why I went and bought these, because I had a bunch of Tombow markers and I do have all the Olo alcohol markers. But the Tombow markers, I was having trouble. You couldn't really blend them. And a lot of what I like to color are very detailed stamps, like this one here, for example, which is this one here. So what's super duper great, look at the tip on this marker. It is like a hair. It is so skinny. You can just barely touch it and get a little line of color. So all those little detail places in there are just perfect for these kind of markers. They have a clear blender that works beautifully. That's what I used here because I only had this one shade of yellow. I didn't use two. I just used the blender to blend that out. Just wonderful. Couldn't say better things about these, and I know a lot of you already have them, but I'm super happy I have them. I did go ahead and get the 90 set, which is a lot. It's expensive. I got them on Amazon. I'll link it below just in case if you're in the mood to get some water-based markers and start a collection of your own. They do have lesser quantity packs, but I got the 90, and as you can see, this is like a sheet that they offer you to print yourself, and you can fill in what you have and what you're missing and see if you want to get more or if you're happy with what you have. Okay, enough about that. Very happy with those, but I did want to show you, like last week, I'm gonna incorporate, which is partly what this is here, some stamp sets. So Love and Roses, this is from Elizabeth Craft Designs, designed by me. CS351 Love and Roses, I'll link everything below. I'm gonna use that. I still want to incorporate my layered Honeybee die set in some way. I have the Honeybee stamp set, one of my earliest stamp sets with Elizabeth Craft Designs. And the die that coordinates for cutting out the bees, and of course there's butterflies and all kinds of stuff here, is 2134, the Layered Butterfly. Not to be confused with Layer Butterflies by Angelica for Elizabeth Craft Designs. This one has bees in it as well. And these match the bees that I've stamped from the Love and Roses stamp set. So it's not really a stamp die combo full set because you don't need it with all these other things, but definitely those two bees coordinate with the ones in that stamp set. So I'm going to play with that, of course. I already started that. And then I have my CS385 Flowers in Nature. I know it's a little hard to see because I've used these a lot and they're kind of black, but I'll show you what they look like stamped out. They're beautiful. And I may or may not incorporate my large nature stamps that just came out in my most recent release for Elizabeth Craft Designs. Okay, let's start simply. And so what I did is I grabbed those two pieces that I had that I showed you earlier, which were kind of these. And I fussy cut the bees out of them. So there's one that faces this way, and then there's this guy that faces that way. And he lost a leg, but I have it over there. We're going to put it back on later. Also cut off the antenna just because they were just way too fussy. And I can always draw those in if I really want them back in there. So I have those fussy cut and ready. And because I cut away some of this, I thought, well, we're still going to use part of this for sure. And I'm going to use this on the inside front cover. So you can see I've already started fussy cutting around it, and it's way too wide right now for my inside front cover. And I made a little pencil line there. So I'm going to just keep this nice and straight with the honeycomb pattern. And that's why I stopped fussy cutting right there, because I thought, well, I don't think I need to continue working so hard. And because we have this weird little thing here, I'm going to cut that off. So I'll just go in here and finish this off at this flower. And of course I need to ink the edges and whatnot, but I wanted to show you, because really like these leaves over here. I wanted the leaves. I could have cut off that other side, but I like the leaves, and I'm thinking it's going to go here in some fashion. But then I was thinking, well, it would be nice if it tucked in and stuck out. That's pretty too. We still see our pretty yellow. But then I lose some of the leaves. But you know what? We can cut those leaves out and just glue the leaves on the front part. So it's kind of faking out the eye. So I might do that. I think I like that idea. So that would go there. And then I took some of my really pretty paper from my Colorful Collective, and I cut this strip out. This page is gorgeous. It's this big 12 by 12 with this in the corner. It has like a light blue pattern on the back. So I just took a piece from a scrap, and it measures the width of my little pocket here, and that was like 4¼ inches. And the depth is 3/4 of an inch. And then I thought, well, that's cute. And then we can put this bee that faces this way here. But, needs a little bit more. And I chose this color because of over here, just so you know. But I went ahead and die cut this lace trim. This is from my 2022 lace border set. There's 4 of them in there. This is from my very first release and still available. So I think I'm going to add that there after I kind of ink it up a little bit. It might be pretty to do top and bottom, maybe too much. I don't know. That looks pretty up there too. So that's sort of my plan. So I've got another strip cut for the back, inside back cover, and that left facing bee and more lace. Okay. And then what will we do with this? Well, that's where I'm going to work on this little leftover piece here. And I think that's going to look beautiful. But we have this weird spot where we took the bee away. But we have plenty of other bees here. This one in particular, I think, and that was from this the front packaging piece. So I think I can put that right over that area once I cut all this away, and I think that's going to look pretty good. Now, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of bees, but you know what? In my book, no such thing. And as I'm fussy cutting out this bee, I know that a lot of you are not fussy cutting fans, whether it be you're just not very good at it, or if you have a little bit of arthritis in your hands. I totally understand. And the alternative, of course, would be to try and find yourself some really beautiful stickers that have the same kind of look. There's beautiful, beautiful options out there in Etsy. You just have to do a little bit of hunting around, but a sticker is a great solution because it's already cut out for you. One thing I will say is if you do like to fussy cut, but you need a few tips, what I like to do is do a very loose cut around everything. I don't start getting right into the details. Like just sort of identify how much of this I want to actually fussy cut. I'm going to eliminate, I think, those flowers up there, but I'm going to get close because I may use those flowers somewhere else, maybe. If I really feel like it, I can still use those. But I get really close first, and then I would go in and sort of do my detail work. And also, if you have places in your fussy cut, like in the center area, let's say there was a big opening in here, that you wanted to see through to your paper behind it, I would start with that first and just use a craft knife to do that part. Do it on a mat like this. Cut away those inside portions before you ever start to do all these outside details. And that way it's not terribly delicate when you're trying to use your knife in there. I find that that's really helpful. And finally, something I've said for years, and I'm not the one who invented this thought, but you notice that I am steering with the paper and just squeezing the scissors. I'm not trying to move my cutting hand all around and twist and turn. I'm just using the other hand to twist and turn the paper instead, and it's so much easier on your hand. All right, I think I'm done. And then, of course, the very last step would be to go in there, if you wish, and get rid of that white edge by just sort of inking with brown. You could do this with a dauber like I'm doing, or you could actually use a marker, which I do sometimes when I especially have open places inside where I can't get to with this. You can get there from underneath and get a marker in there and just kind of carefully color the edges. Okay, so I think that's going to be really pretty. And here's our bee. I haven't inked him yet, but I think if I just kind of put it like that, we won't know that we have that weird cut in the top of our honeycomb. So now we just have to get our little strip on here and our lace, which we will trim. And I think what I'm going to do is just glue this right to this and put it down as one unit. And you know what? I don't like to waste anything. So before I glue this down, I'm just going to stick that little bit of greenery right below. Why not? Looks good there. Okay, got that. Where'd my bee go? Here he is. And so this will go right here. And I think that looks kind of pretty with that down there. So, even if it's a really small bit and you think it's trash, you might want to hang on to it. Just lay it on your table. You never know. You may want to reintroduce it to the situation and you may really like it. You may surprise yourself. All right, so you saw me using my precision glue press over there. A lot of people are still asking, what is that glue gun thing? You can check online. It's wonderful. It's got art glitter glue in the bottle, but it comes with Nouveau glue in it. It's by My Sweet Petunia, and it is wonderful. Okay, now I'll move to the back. Okay, put this on the back. Looks pretty straight. It's kind of through the middle, but maybe a little lower than center, top and bottom. And then we have our bee, and I think we're going to look at some of this other extra stuff on the table and see if there's something we can add to this panel like we did to the front. I still have his other leg over there. I haven't forgotten. I believe it was his front leg there. So I'll get that back on him. Him or her, don't know. See, here it is. And it goes right there. I can see where it came off. And believe it or not, I am going to ink it a little bit because I see a lot of white right there. I'm just using Gathered Twigs Distress ink. Just regular, not oxides. Might as well get her on now before we forget later. Okay, I think it was probably like that. And nobody has to know but you and me. Okay, so I do have this little bit left over. I do also have this up here. It's a little bit blurry. I don't want to disturb any of these. So, and it is a small little spot, so maybe I'll go with some of these little guys. All right, so I know these are tiny little pieces, but I've got that one, and I've got this one. I just love using what I've got. It's on the page. I hate to throw it away. We could do a little cluster over here coming off the right. We could do both sides, but I think that's a little too perfect and balanced. We could put one up a little higher. Okay, cute. And so, something about this is bothering me, but right now I'm not going to stop and fret about it. And that's what I would encourage you to do as well. Like when you're making a mini album, you don't have to like work on one page in its entirety and be absolutely positively sure that that's what you want to do. You can come back. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with big, easy things, and then I'm going to work my way down to the details. So I think I want to have this right here. Looks like I need to do a little more here. It stopped with the actual fussy cutting, so I'm going to get more detail over here, and then I'll get that glued on right there. Okay, got him down, and looks pretty good. So there's our inside front cover and our inside back cover. At this point, my microphone was not hooked up, so I'm going to voice over here. You see that I am going through my little cut aparts and trying to match my next signature here. And this is what I've decided on. I've got it all planned out according to color. I've inked the edges and I've got some things stamped out. I've got my die cut here, my honeycomb, and some coordinating paper to kind of match my background. I've got a little clock I stamped on that pretty orange paper. And I've also stamped out "Love This," and I've stamped it in a similar blue, kind of teal color as that background paper, inked around the edges, and I'm just trying to find a good placement here, making sure kind of overlap elements. Okay, at this point, I feel like I need a little texture on this stamped label. So I've grabbed my Playful Texture stamp set. There's a teeny little polka dot. I just love to use this, and I'm using Sand Dune Versafine Clear ink because it's very, very faint. And this will just add a little bit of texture to the background, kind of tie it in so it's not so clean. It kind of has that same feel as the rest of the page. Okay, I'm going to speed things up here a little bit. I've decided on my placement for everything, and I've got the block up there to kind of hold things in place. But you see there by my finger, right where I'm about to point, I'm trying to cover it up. There's a blue ink spot there that I'm concerned about. And we're going to take care of that in just a little bit. I don't know where the blue came from. I may have gotten some ink on my finger when I was stamping before. But I'm taking this honeycomb die from my layered Honeybee die set, and I'm just kind of adding that to the top. Came out of some paper from my beautiful Bounty. Okay, and I've decided that the fix is to die cut that honeycomb again out of that orange cardstock that I had stamped my little clock and use those inside pieces from the honeycomb as just little accents here and there. And you see that I've put one down over that blue ink blob to kind of cover that up, and that worked out nicely for me. I really like that. And now I have an extra honeycomb to play with later. All right, now I'm just testing the mic because it seemed as though it did disconnect from the whole situation. I think it's because I went and got a snack and I came back and forgot to resync it up or something. I don't know. Okay, I think I would like to remove this just to keep myself from struggling too much working in the whole album. So I'm going to put that block there. I know there's a little bit of a glare on the block, so apologies. Okay, so I have this one ready. I did use my corner chomper, crocodile corner chomper, the stub and scallop one, and I used the stub to cut away the corners and ink the edges of this one. This one matches this page very nicely. And with that same paper that I did the honeycomb earlier, that's this one from Beautiful Bounty, I die cut one of my ferns from the layered butterfly set. Love that. Inked it up a little bit. So I'm thinking that this is going to be kind of like so. And then for my everyday words 4, I went ahead and layered up the word blessings. This die set in particular, I have 4 sets obviously. It has the word and the shadow, which is really kind of nice. You can use one or both. And I just think that that's going to be sweet for that page. I don't feel like I have to put something way up there just yet. Maybe later. And I keep saying, I don't want to worry about it till later, as a reminder to you as well as to me to don't stop and think right now about what else needs to happen. If you feel good about this much so far, then stop and move on to the next one. And you can always come back with fresh eyes, maybe even step away. And so I have to remind myself of that as well sometimes. And I feel like blessings is like the perfect word here because this is my gratitude journal after all. And that's a perfect word. Okay, so our first signature is done. I'm pleased with that very much. Okay, for the next signature, we have this page here. So it's a little bit brighter, and I don't want to keep going with this same thing all the time as far as my accent color. I want to introduce a third color. So I'm looking over at my color wheel on the wall, which I keep up here all the time, and I'm looking across the color wheel from sort of greenish bluish and yellow, and because they're close together on the wheel, and if you look across from that, it's like pinkish red and purple. Now I don't have purple in my paper collections or pink, so I did grab some scrap. This is Patterns and Solids from Graphic 45 from many years ago. I don't remember which collection that is. If you know, you can tell me maybe. But I did use my new die set, which is Photo Frames and Mats. I don't have it in front of me just now to show you, but this time I'm going to try some pink on here. I have inked around the edges. I cut these with the die, and I think that's going to work well, but still to pull in a little bit of that. I went back to that lace dye that I used earlier, but now a different style in the set. And I believe I want to break up a little bit of that pink with this down here. So I've already cut that to size. I've got the pink there. And I'm just deciding on what is going to happen up here. And I believe I will move this off to the left a little bit instead of centered perfectly. So I grabbed a bunch of words, and now these words are from another set, and I'm sorry, I keep pulling from all my different sets, many sets. So obviously just use what you have, but this is my happy stamp set for Elizabeth Craft Designs. We have all these words here, and I have cut some of these stamps apart just because I use, like, say, happiness more than daily happiness, the sentence. So I'm just going to grab some of these words like happiness, precious, joyful. It says joyful moments, but I'm just going to use joyful. Special memory, I'm just going to use special. And I'm putting this in my mini Misty here. And my simple life, I'm just going to probably use simple. So I don't care that these aren't perfectly straight. I'm going to cut them up. I'm just going to stamp them on this same kind of off-white cardstock color as our page here. So they kind of tie in together. And I just have to decide, do I want to stamp them in black or color? And I think I'm just going to stick with black. So I've got VersaFine Clair. Actually, this is just VersaFine Onyx Black. And VersaFine Clair makes a black, of course. I believe it's called Nocturne, which is lovely as well. I just always grab this one for some reason. Okay, so we'll stamp this over here. And it's good to use a platform because I am stamping several stamps at one time, and you just don't know. It turned out great. You just don't know what's going to happen. And what I like to do here is use a clear ruler so I can kind of see how things are lining up. And I'm going to use a nice sharp blade in my craft knife. And I will cut all these pieces out. Okay, I've got my words, and I was certainly not even thinking about making them all the same as far as, measurement, depth, because some of these have descenders, some of them have higher ascenders. So I'm just trying to get close to the tops and the bottoms of those and just kind of eyeball cutting these ends. Whoops. And then we'll ink those up and they'll look really nice. This one I got a little bit close to the top and the bottom, but that's okay. No judgment here. Okay, we've got one more simple. We can save the word life there if we want. Okay, and just makes such a difference just to ink those edges with some brown. I think this is going to look nice with some words, these words just kind of cascading down that page. By the way, the reason why I like to use patterns and solids and some of these prints to do die cuts, have just a little bit of a print in the background, is I just find it to be so much more interesting if the paper has a little bit of either texture to it or a very soft print in the background. You can certainly use solid cardstock, but something about this just pleases me so much more. And so I have just completely hoarded and saved all my Graphic 45 patterns and solids, where I have sold some of the actual paper packs in the past. But the patterns and solids I'll always keep, and I sort them according to color, and that's why I don't know what this one is, because I have all my pinks together. Okay, now I'm getting my words on here, and rather than having them all line up all perfect over there, I thought it might look nice to just kind of keep them a little bit more irregular coming down the page. And then I have daily happiness that I think I want to put way down here. My joyful, precious, simple, special daily happiness. So I think this will be nice down here. Okay, added little touch. I'm going to put this bee. I punched it with a circle punch off of this little card here. We still have a pretty flower we can fussy cut later if we want, but I also punched a little bit larger circle out of that same pink just to pull in a little bit more pink and have that kind of make sense there. So that part is done, and now we'll move on to this side. And I am going to go back to the picture frames and mats, which I was looking for to show you. It's this one here, and I have all kinds of wonderful options. See, here's the one we just used. So for this one, I think I'm going to use the same pink paper, and I just tested. I could use this one. I think this one's a little bit big, but this frame in particular is like not a postal, a picture frame, like an old time Polaroid, how they had that rough kind of edge on them. This is one of those dies that has the center part cut away, and this is just a little bit bigger than that, so I am going to glue it from the back side, and it kind of fits in there nicely, but I do want to make it kind of tone down that pink just like I did on the other part of this signature with a little bit of ink around the edges, and then we'll glue our bee inside of here. All right, so I have a little bit of a plan here. I went back to that same lace border that I used earlier, and I cut two, and I want to put them together because this is going to be down here. I want to kind of fill up the space, and I think I want to run these down from top to bottom, but I don't like particularly how they're just butted together. So I went to yet another die set of mine, Borders and Trims, and I think I want to put this right down the middle. I think that will be cute. It'll tie in a little bit more of that ivory cardstock, and then we can put this here, and then maybe one more element here. So let me get that down. Okay, cute. And I don't think that I will ink this, just because it's a little tedious. But I was going to say that if you don't have, all these border dies or lace dies, you could use real lace. Use a very skinny ribbon for this top centerpiece, and then 2 pieces of lace put together like that if you have narrow lace, or if you have wider lace. That, of course, is ideal. You don't have to have everything. Just use what you have, right? All right, I got to bring this down in front of me for a second because I want to get this kind of straight. Just following the line. And I'll show you here in just a sec. That looks cute. Just have to trim that just a touch more right there. Okay, I'll just put weight on that for a second. Okay, so I fussy cut this one out of another one of those little cut aparts. I know it's a lot of bees, but you know what? It makes me so happy. And I'm not out to find a million different embellishments for my pages. This is my bee journal, and this is what's going to make me happy. So we'll get this on next. Give it a little tilt over here. Give that a second, and then we'll pop this on. Okay. And because I overlapped into the craft there, I went ahead and overlapped over here. And that's pretty sweet. For now, I think that's done. And we have just the one more signature to go. And then I want to add just a little bit to these pages here. Okay, so for the last one, we have these pages, and I've been gathering a few things. And so I wanted to point out to you these great little frames of mine, and they come from different sets from my very first release. This one is from Happy, and this is the one we've been using with all the words with precious and special, joyful, etc. So that's that one. The Honeybee one, which we have used as well, has this beautiful frame. And we're going to use this Best Organic Honey label here, which I've already stamped and punched out with a circle punch. But then I also have a set called Bloom, which I think I'm going to use some of these words like blossom and grow. And then there is a third style of frame. So I think we're going to use these two with my remaining cut aparts, and we may introduce a few little flowers for filler. So let's see how this comes together. So what my plan is here is to fit this one into this space here. And the best way I know to do that is just to cut away the middle of this one using my blade and a ruler. So we'll get those both done that same way. Okay, this one is easy because there is a black line in there to follow, but this one has no lines to follow. So I'm just going to do my best, and you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I am going to come in and do a straight line on the sides, of course, close to the line that's already there in the stamp. And then for the rest of it, I'll just freehand. You could get your scissors in here if you wanted to. I'm just going to do a rough cut first, and I can always fine tune it later. And I'm always pulling toward me to make that a lot easier. So there's the top half, and I'll do the same to the bottom half. Okay, I'll do this to both, just kind of get in there because it's not perfect. So if we do a little inking, that always makes up for any kind of imperfections like that. So I'm just always working with that same brown, gathered twigs. Okay, and I didn't cut the outside on purpose because I want to make sure, first of all, that it's going to work. And then second of all, I only want to cut one time. So we might as well get this glued together, and then we can cut around that extra afterwards. Just seems to make sense to me. We don't need glue all over the whole back of this. I can actually see through here to the stamped area, so I know how far to go out with my glue, which is not very far, just about 1/4 of an inch or so. And bring this down here and try to get that fairly straight. There we go. Okay, we'll put a brick on that while we work on the other one. And it's the same way. It's really pretty, isn't it? I'd like to go up a little higher, but I don't think we have that option. So I'll just get that on there. Okay, and this part we can do with our scissors. I like to use the long scissors just because I can do one single cut and not have to, you know, snip, snip, snip through the thing. So I'll go around and do that to both of those. The second one, of course, will have to be a little more like a fussy cut because of those decorative edges. Okay, I think I'm kind of ready here. This little bingo, this comes from I believe that's from Love and Roses. Let me make sure. Yes, indeed. This one here that we've been using. So Love and Roses, it's just a little bingo card, but look in the middle. It's a bee, of course. So matching, I've got this. I stamped my blossom onto this little piece here, and then I fussy cut that last little bit that I had in this little cut apart. And also for the other pages, I cut away these little purple flowers. I think that's going to work. So all we had left of the whole paper collection was this one bee, and I cut off his one leg. So I don't know if he's going to make the cut. But here's my thought here is to have our bingo up there. I still want to see that bee, so we're going to make sure we don't get to overlapping that too much. I do want this to overlap this a little, and then this would be a really great place for our little flower to fill that area. So let me get all that glued down. And when you're making clusters like this, the best thing I can tell you as far as a tip is just play around, start moving things around, have them all cut out and ready just how you want them, and just start moving them around until it feels good. That's all I did, and I'm super happy with that. All right, so now we're going to work over here. We've got this piece, we've got grow, we've got our best organic honey, and then we have 2 sets of these fussy cut flowers. So again, just going to start playing around. Maybe this will come on top this time. Maybe not. You know, that's how you find out. We'll do like we did before, I think. We'll put this one here. And would that be weird to have one up there? Maybe we need just a little more here. And we can move this all up a little so we kind of fill the space a little bit better. See, I think I'm okay with that. Now, the last one, we had this on top, but I don't know. I think maybe this needs to be on top this time. Okay, so the elements that you know are going to be on the very bottom, let's start with those first. That's what I usually do. And I need to weigh this down so it quits tipping on me. Okay, I feel like that looks pretty good. So you do notice overlapping is the key. If I were to have spread all these out with space in between, it just wouldn't look nearly as good. So I hope that you kind of practice that little principle. I use that in everything that I do, card making, planner page making, everything really. Okay, so let's do a little bit more to these, maybe on this intro page, maybe on the back part of the pages. So what I'd like to do is just do some stamping right onto the page. Now, this could be scary and tricky for some of you. You know, we did go through and do this, but it's on white, and this is not white. So I'm going to stamp right onto the page, and I'm just going to go in with all kinds of confidence here. Put my mat under there for something. In fact, what might be better is something with a little bit of cushion if you have it. I just happen to have this cutting mat from Close to My Heart, and the back side of it has a little bit of a cushion to it. Put a little piece of paper here, a little scrap, because I like to go off the edge a little bit. And I'm just going to select a few stamps here. So I think that I will grab this flourish and one of the bees. Okay, and these again are from Love and Roses. I am going to put them on a block. Get a square block for that one. You could try to put this into a larger like stamp platform if you want. If you're scared, I'm not scared. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go back to this sand dune because I know it's nice and light. I know it's not going to hopefully soak through this paper. It is a permanent ink, but it's not super, you know, it's not super wet. So hopefully it will not soak through to the other side. And even if it did, as long as it's not a word, I feel like it's okay. You know, like if we see a flourish coming through on the other side of the paper, and we can't really, I mean, it's very faint, but that's just subtle enough and pretty that it's not, it's not terribly, garish, and it's not soaking through. Now, when I want to stamp the bee, however, I am going to use a little bit darker brown color. So I'm going to grab Portobello over here. And I am going to test it on a scrap first, just to make sure. And I always test it on a similar color. So I'll just grab this scrap I had. I tried out something. So it's fairly dark, but it's not terrible. I think it's actually quite nice. So this is also a VersaFine Clair color. And we'll just stamp it up there. And all this is doing is just, you can do this on as many pages as you want, really. I'm going to be writing on all these pages eventually, but it's kind of nice to have the intro page maybe kind of decorated a little bit. You can do as much or as little as you want, of course. Okay, and let's say we wanted just one more thing on there. I grabbed the words happy in nature because I do want to tie in just a little bit of that teal blue over here. So this is Warm Breeze like we used earlier. I don't really need this paper, but I'm going to put it there. And I just have to decide, where do I want it? Do I want it way up at the top? Do I want it over here? And I think I want it kind of at the top there. Okay, so I'm going to get this down in front of me a little bit more. And if you mess up, if you make it kind of uneven, it's your journal. It's okay. Now here comes my head. Sorry. Just be careful. Okay, that looks nice. I think I'm done with that one. All right, let's do just one more together, and then I'll go ahead and do the other two signatures. For this inside back part of this one, I have grabbed the definition of the word happy from the Happy Stamp Set. And I'm going to grab that sand dune once again. I also have a fern stamp here at the ready. So again, this will be our light element. So we'll do three things just like we did at the other end. So happy, and this can go off the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, looks good. I had to do it off camera because I had to get my head way down over it. So now I have Portobello, and I have a fern stamp here. This is also from Happy, and we'll come down a little bit more. Beautiful, love it. And then we'll go back to this and pick a word from that same set. Let's see, we had happy in nature, so we have blessings down here. Let's just do natural beauty. Why not? And I just keep throwing these stamps over here because I don't want to clean them yet. So natural beauty. And we'll do it up in here again. Sorry about my head if it's in there. Gosh, I'm getting lucky. Okay, looks good. Okay, I am done. Every time I look at it, I'm thinking, oh, I could do more here. I could do more there. And, eventually maybe I will, but I'll just show you. I'm trying to keep it simple for now. It's just my journal, just for me. But this is the second signature where I did some stamping. Same colors, a light, a darker, and then that kind of teal blue. So that's the second signature. And then the third one, I did a little music notes, flowers, that clock again. And back here, we did a little leaf, the butterfly, and treasure this moment. And in this particular page when I was working on it before, there seemed to be like an open space there that was bothering me. So I just grabbed a couple of those little hexagons and popped them in there. So let's get this in our journal. We'll talk about what's going to happen next week. And that is, I will be leaving for Virginia. In Chantilly, Virginia, I will be helping in the Elizabeth Craft Designs booth at the Scrapbook Expo next weekend. And I'm going to try to do a little bit of video while I'm there. We'll see. I'm going to be busy, but if you're in the area and you're coming to the show, make sure that you come and say hello, get a picture with me, get yourself some great Elizabeth Craft Designs goodies, and I'd love to see you there. So I hope you like the project today. This is part 2 of 2, and this is it for me, and I will see you next time in the next crafty video.